Stocks have a boom at the very end of the day and start going up well above where they were before. NASCAR goes in and doubles down on its news story and then triples down on the news story as well. The Dixie Chicks are changing their name. One of my personal heroes and one person who was instrumental in the journey for me coming to YouTube has bent the knee, and the presidential race is still on. So we've got a ton of stuff to get to there. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. So we've got a ton of stuff to get to. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a great Friday morning on Contemporary. We have got a ton to get to today, and I feel just on the fact that, I just had my Twitter followers jump up almost 100 people in 24 hours due to a semi-viral tweet that I put out, a reply to somebody actually, that I should probably make this my best Contemporary ever, and boy am I getting off to a great start as well. But we've got a ton of news to get to today. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we've got the live chat sitting up over the everything else here. So before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We've got Contemporary, we've got the Daily Ignoramus, we've got the Generational Gap, we've also got the Freckles and Brit Show, the Wyatt Birkenhoff Show, and the R-Rated Conservative. Come on over and check us out and enjoy all of our swag. And keep in mind, before we get started, coming up on Monday is the final episode of Ed's World. It's not that I'm cutting out the two-person podcast. It's just I have found a co-host, and we are moving on into a completely different show. So make sure you come out and give Emily some great feedback. She was kind enough to come back and be the last guest because she was the first guest, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all as we go forward. But let's get started with the stock market today. From Google's first search, it looks like, yes, we had, against the previous close, looks like it was kind of a steady, rough day throughout the day and even dropping a little bit below. Kind of looked like we were going to close below in the beginning, but just at the very end of the day, we had a nice little rally and it all kicked back up and started again. So that's probably going to look good for people's 401k. We're not back to 29k yet, but I mean, it's still within reach. So we'll keep watching this here, but let's see what the investors have to say. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones Futures coronavirus stock market rally resilient as Tesla leads bullish rebounds. Nike, JP Morgan, Goldman move late. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures tilted lower early Friday along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, with Nike earnings and banked stress tests in focus. The coronavirus stock market rally showed resilience in the face of negative COVID-19 headlines, rebounding from early losses to move higher. Earlier in the day, Tesla, Dexcom, Salesforce, Okta, Wingstop, Atlassian, and Infi all rebounded bullishly from key support levels on Thursday. Man, I still want some Wingstop here. Hey, looks like Seawall's over here. Hey, Seawall, check what's next to your name now. Nike reported a surprise quarterly loss and revenue miss late Thursday. The Federal Reserve barred JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and other big banks from stock buybacks or dividend hikes in the third quarter, saying several financial giants could get too close to minimum capital levels amid the coronavirus pandemic. Nike stock fell sharply after the DJIA, athletic apparel giant, had moved toward a buy point. JP Morgan stock, Bank of America stock, and Goldman Sachs stock retreated in extended trade after strong gains on Thursday and regulatory relief. While coronavirus cases are surging again, the stock market rally remains resilient. The S&P 500 index found key support in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and NASDAQ also moved higher after Wednesday's sharp losses. Leading stocks, which generally held up well on Wednesday, showed bullish action on Thursday. Dexcom stock, Atlassian stock, and Infi stock all found support around their 10-week moving averages. Tesla stock and Okta stock bounced from their 21-day lines. Wingstop stock and Salesforce stock found support around buy points from recent breakouts. I never thought that if I read stocks on a morning show, which I never thought I was going to do to begin with, Wingstop was going to be on the daily grind, but here it is. Wingstop, everybody. Which, they make good wings. I'm not going to lie about that. Tesla stock, Dexcom stock, and Team stock are all on the IBD leaderboard. Okta stock, Iffy stock, and Wing stock were added to the swing trader. Dow Jones futures fell 0.55% versus fair value as DGIA components like Nike, JP Morgan, and Goldman pulled back. S&P 500 futures were off 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 futures edged lower. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading on the next regular stock market session. All right, let's keep going down the line here from CNBC. Dow closes nearly 300 points higher after a late day surge, banks jump. This is from Fred Imbert and Ewan Lee. This is at the close last night, so this will give us a little bit of a different idea on where we got our surge from. Stocks ended a volatile session on Thursday with solid gains as investors cheered regulation rollbacks for the big banks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 299.66 points higher, or 1.2%, at 25,745.60. The S&P 500 ended the day up 1.1% at 3,083.76. The NASDAQ Composite also advanced 1.1% to 10,017. The FDIC said it would allow banks to more easily make large investments into funds such as venture capital. Also, banks will not have to set aside cash for derivatives traders, that is an actual thing, between different affiliates of the same firm, potentially freeing up more capital. Yeah, the more money that you have running around and the less you have to pay in taxes, fees, and other forms of theft, the more you're going to want to spend and the more you're going to want to put into business. So, good job there. When we think about a recession of the magnitude that we have, there's going to be some credit write-offs by banks, said Art Hogan, chief market strategist at National Securities. The fact that they're going to have more working capital makes markets breathe a sigh of relief. Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo all rose more than 3%. Goldman Sachs also gained 4.6%, while Morgan Stanley advanced 3.9%. Shares of the major banks jumped to their highs of the day in the final hour of trading as investors looked ahead to the Federal Reserve releasing stress test results for the major banks. Those results are set to release after the close, so we'll be looking into this over the weekend because I'm pretty sure that some of this is going to be out there. Maybe some entrepreneurs are going to look at this and say, hey, maybe I want to throw some of my money in there as well. So a couple things going on here, but it all looks like good news here. Let's keep going into the bad news. So we're going to start the day with Fox News. From Gary Gastelum, maybe. NASCAR releases photo of noose found in Bubba Wallace's garage. NASCAR has released the first official image of the garage door pull rope fashioned into a noose-style knot that was found in Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega Superspeedway on Sunday, and said that an internal investigation determined it was the only one present at any of the 29 tracks it visits. The discovery led to an FBI hate crime probe that determined that it had been there since at least last October and was not directed at Wallace. The Richard Petty Motorsports driver has been a vocal supporter of Black Lives Matter movement and was instrumental in NASCAR's recent decision to ban the Confederate flag at its events. No, he is an SJW that doesn't know what's going on here and has essentially he's trying to caperneck. The whole thing, they're trying to caperneck at this point. They're got somebody who was on the ropes that wasn't doing too well in the sport, but now wants to get all the media attention because then he gets to be famous and rich and everything else out of this. And once again, I mean, from what I've seen out of everything else that's going on here, and when I read the live chat after everything, yeah, Bubba Wallace had not finished first in a race. I mean, he's a mediocre racer at best. He's good enough, obviously, to get into the Cup Series, but he's mediocre at best. And the other thing of this is, and this is just going on the racial element, once that helmet's on, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It's just how well you can drive. We can't see any of that once that helmet is on. You got gloves, you got a full fire suit, you've got the helmet on. You can't see any of that. So, there's that. But I also just want to make a commentary on the fact that NASCAR is just releasing this photo now. So this was found by a worker in the Bubba Wallace campaign. Not in the campaign. in political mode so bad. This was found by a worker on the Bubba Wallace team. We're in a world where everybody is carrying a pretty high quality digital camera in their pocket. I can't believe how some of these cameras have evolved over the years. But most everybody has a pretty high quality digital camera right in their pocket at almost all times. And this is the first time we're seeing this photo. Fuck you if you want me to believe this is real. No. This is not a real photo. This is not. I don't care how much time or how many times you try and put this down my throat. This was staged. It's a real photo, obviously, but this was staged. So, no. I'm not buying this. It does not take a full week for a photo like this to get out if you're going to be that outraged about something. Somebody was going to leak it beforehand. So, no. Didn't happen. Alright. Let's keep going here. From PC Gamer. D&D is trying to move away from racial stereotypes from Fraser Brown. D&D's fantasy races are often painted in broad strokes, ensuring that if you ever need a cunning villain, you can always just grab a drow, or maybe an orc, if you need a monstrous warrior with anger problems. Wizards of the Coast says it's trying to put an end to that, however, in an attempt to make the tabletop game more inclusive. In a blog post published last week, the publisher outlined some of the changes it's already made, as well as steps it's planning to take. D&D 5th edition is easily the most accessible and inclusive edition of the game, but there's still loads of room for improvement. 2016's Curse of the Strahd, for instance, contained Vistani, a group made from Romani tropes, and one that exacerbated negative stereotypes. Wizards of the Coast has made changes to the Curse of the Strahd, and is also planning to explore the Vistani further in 2 upcoming books, with assistance from a Romani consultant. The more fantastical races aren't free from these issues either. Wizards of the Coast acknowledges that the language often used to describe some races are painfully reminiscent of how real-world ethnic groups have been and continue to be denigrated. Iberon, Rising from the Last War, and Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, both published in the last year, paint drow and orcs just as complex as other races, and apparently that's how they'll be presenting going forward. As well as changing how it approaches future books and the language they use, there will also be changes to your characters. Wizards of the Coast is planning to offer a way for players to customize their characters' origins and make changes to their racial ability score. Races get different ability bonuses, like elves being especially dexterous, but you'll be able to pick a different bonus that better reflects your character. Or, hear me out, you can build a character in the rule set to get the bonuses that you want in the race that you want. This is fantasy. This is not reality. And furthermore, this is completely divorced from the way race is in actual humanity. Because no matter what color your skin is, you're still a human being. Whereas between an elf and an orc, you are legitimately a different species. You are legitimately a different type of being. Ugh. This is just ridiculous. I can't believe that the world is going this direction. And that's even watching it go this direction for the last 3 years. Alright, let's keep going here. Abolish the Police. Black residents in Harlem say no as white liberals push for it in the video. From Fox News, from Caleb Park. Amid ongoing protests of Black Lives Matter activists calling for abolishing the police, one filmmaker decided to ask residents in 2 of New York City's neighborhoods what they thought about the proposal from the left. Ami Horowitz first went to the East Village in New York City asking white liberals if they think it will help the black community. The responses showed apparent anger and hatred towards law enforcement. Absolutely, one man responded. They're monsters. I think that the police are disgusting, another man added. Just fucking hate the police and everything that they stand for. Policing this country is about keeping black people down, another white man said, calling law enforcement an occupying army that arose out of slave-catching patrols. However, Horowitz traveled to Malcolm X Boulevard in Harlem. he heard a different tune from the black residents. "I think they're full of crap," one woman said, of people calling for abolishing the police. "I think they're being somewhat ignorant." Another woman said, "I have family members that are police. I respect the police. I would not want to see a lawless society." "It'd be worse than what it is. Robberies, looting, raping, murder," another resident added. A man wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt said abolishing the police would be suicide and added, "There's too many criminals out here. I wouldn't feel safe." And yes, this is very, very interesting to see. Of course, you go into one of the most Marxist areas of New York City and go out and see what they think about going out and abolishing the police. And I'm sure that they didn't specifically select people based on what they were doing and some of their upbringing to answer this. But then, yes, you go into a neighborhood where a person would actually expect there to be a lot of police brutality and other things out there, and they say, no, we want to stay safe. And I've said it from the beginning. If you abolish the police, they're going to find a way to protect themselves. They're going to find a group of people to band together to protect themselves. It's just the way our society is run. It's just the way our society is built. People want to feel safe. They want to feel protected. And they want to feel that if something is going wrong, they can call somebody in to interact on their behalf. So I think this was just kind of an interesting experiment. I bet you this is the last time we hear about this, but I thought it was interesting enough to put in here. Let's keep moving on down the list. From CNN, the Dixie Chicks have changed their name. This is from Chloe Mellis. The Dixie Chicks will now be called the Chicks. All right, I'm going to stop right there at this point. You are a country music band. One of your members plays the banjo. The other one plays the violin. You are a country music band. You are not a late 80s punk band, even though Natalie tries to keep her hair cut like she is in a late 80s punk band. You are not a late 80s punk band. A name like the Chicks just doesn't fit with your musical style, but do you. Let's keep reading. The country band announced their news on their website on Thursday with the caption, "We want to meet this moment. No, we want to sell a bunch of records because we have a new record coming out." The news follows Lady Antebellum's recent decision to change the name to Lady A, and especially going down the lines that Lady Antebellum is still relevant, citing the word's association to slavery. The Chicks have updated their social media handles and also released a new music video for their song March March, along with their name. The song, off their upcoming album Gaslighter, is a tribute for protests for equality and social issues over the past decades. Another set of white, out-of-touch liberals trying to speak on behalf of the black community. "March, march to my own drum, hey, hey, I'm an army of one," the women sing. This will be the Chicks' first album in nearly 14 years and will be available July 17th. The group first announced that they were working on the album last summer, taking the long way. Their last album won a Grammy for Album of the Year in 2007. So yes, they've been trying to push themselves back into politics, so people talk about them all the time here, and yes, I'm pretty sure that they didn't think about the use of just the word "the" and then another word here. So, yeah. Seize on the moment. Sell a bunch of records. Let's keep going. I have 4 free articles remaining this month. Don't care. From Newsweek. Conservatives weaponize cancel culture to tame anti-Trump celebrities. This is from Emma Nolan. Cancel culture, it's here, it's happening, and it seems like every day there are calls to cancel more famous faces on social media, but not always from the voices you would expect. In recent weeks, in the wake of the George Floyd protests and the resurgence of Black Lives Matter movement, the spotlight has shone on the likes of late-night hosts Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, for past use of blackface for comedy sketches, and among the multitude of voices calling for these celebrities to face consequences for their past actions are a number of conservative figures and media outlets. Conservatives pounce. A few notable anti-Trump celebrities have been attacked in the right-wing media and social media recently as part of the Black Lives Matter controversy. This tweet, from Turning Point USA founder and Trump supporter Charlie Kirk, points out that notable celebs caught in blackface scandals are all leftists. No shit, that's the only people that you'll allow in your little club out there. This week, Fox News published an exclusive alleging that Kimmel, who is famously anti-Trump, used the N-word, imitating rapper Snoop Dogg, our song in 1996 for a comedy Christmas album. However, Fox News has not condemned the vocal anti-Black Lives Matter rhetoric of one of its anchors, Tucker Carlson, whose views against the protest have seen several major advertisers pull their sponsorship of Tucker Carlson Tonight in recent weeks. Kimmel has since apologized for performing in blackface, in which he addressed his critics' attempts to undermine his criticisms of social and other injustices. No, that's not what's happening here, you dumb bastard. Alright, let's think about this for just a second here. First off, anybody who has been involved in right-wing media at this point has been trying to make this call for Jimmy Kimmel for quite some time. Especially the ones who follow Sean Hannity in the religious fervor that they follow Sean Hannity. Because he has been saying, since 2016, he's been citing the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, now an NBC night host, and the guy who cries about his child and the ACA and single-payer health care, used to go on the Man Show with a banana in his pants and have women go out and feel what's in his pants to try and figure out what it was, including the part of the sketch in which he had to check a girl's ID because he wanted to make sure she was 18 because, are you sure? Because Uncle Jimmy doesn't need to have that kind of hassle in his life. So the sexism, the crassness, and everything else is baked into the pie with Jimmy Kimmel, and it was Black Lives Matter that came out and pointed out Kimmel's blackface stunt and everything else that went out of this. If it had been the right wing that was trying to cancel Kimmel at this point, we'd have done it 3 years ago. When Sean Hannity started screeching it over and over at the same time in every one of his monologues every single day, 5 days a week on the radio. So, yeah, no, this is, and I pointed this out on Twitter, and for the size of my small channel, it went viral, and that is a relative term, of course, because I have a very small Twitter following at this point, but I mean, I went up 100 followers in a day, and the last I looked, we were at almost 250 likes on it, which is, once again, for a 1,500 person Twitter handle, that's huge. That's pretty big. So, no, this was not the left wing or the right wing trying to cancel Kimmel. This was the left wing coming for Kimmel, and Newsweek trying to explain it away because of Fox News. So, yeah, that's what this is. And let's keep going. From CNN, this may take me a little while to get through, because this was actually kind of a punch in the gut. I'm doing an Ed Talk tomorrow to talk about this. So we're not going to watch the video right now. I think I'm going to cut some pieces up of it, and we'll do it for Ed Talk tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to put it in there or not, because usually that's just me talking on Ed Talk, but maybe I'll make a solo video on this. But this was just a punch in the gut to me. Let me read this here, and I'll let you know why this was. YouTube influencer Jenna Marbles quits her channel after blackface backlash from Jesse Young over at CNN. YouTube star Jenna Marbles, known by her channel name Jenna Marbles, announced Thursday she's leaving the platform amid a controversy over racially offensive videos. I feel like we're at a time where we're purging ourselves of anything and everything toxic, she said in a video titled A Message, in which she apologized for racist and sexist content. Mari, who has more than 20 million subscribers, highlighted specific videos from 2011 and 2012, one of which she donned blackface to impersonate rapper Nicki Minaj, another featuring a rap song with a joke about Asians, and one video in which she slammed women who slept around. It's not my intention to do blackface, she said of the Minaj impersonation. I do want to tell you how unbelievably sorry I am if I ever offended you by posting this video. I can't read this. Or by doing this impression, and that was never my intention. It's not okay, it's shameful, it's awful. I wish it wasn't a part of my past. She added that the rap song, which included the lyric, "Hey Ching Chong Wing Wong, shake your King Kong Ding Dong," was inexcusable and shouldn't have existed. The videos, as well as other old content from the early years of her channel, are no longer viewable by the public, she added. For now, I just can't exist on this channel. I think I'm just going to move on from this channel for now, Maury said, visibly emotional. I don't know how long it's going to be. I just want to make sure that things I'm putting into the world aren't hurting anyone. So I need to be done with this channel for now or for forever. This was probably one of the most painful announcements I've seen in my life. Because Jenna Marbles, believe it or not, was one of the key influencers for me having an internet presence myself. Those of you who are unaware, who've never gone down into the links below or above and seen my previous blog articles, I have everything archived in my Blogspot blog, which is linked in the description below. I did not start out doing politics. I started out doing interpersonal relationships, lifestyle, and dating. That was what I started out doing, and a lot of that was influenced by the fact that I saw videos like Maury's early video, Things Girls Do, Things Guys Do, and how to trick people into thinking that you're attractive. Early videos like that were the inspiration for me to start doing dating and lifestyle. And then, of course, you have it presented by somebody who's actually funny as hell. Who wasn't afraid at the time. I can't say he's not afraid anymore, but who at the time wasn't afraid to go out and reach out and slap the dumbest parts of our society. No matter what the backlash was. She was going to put her message out there no matter what. But she went out and bent the knee to the Hollywood mob. And I mean, I do have some citation as to why I believe that she did it, of course. If you look at her Wikipedia page, which is just go and look at there, you look at the fact that, yeah, she did her blog and everything, but she's gone out and she's had the Young Hollywood Award, she's had the Streamy Award, she's in the Wax Museum, Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in New York City, she's in there, she's been in movies, she's been on MTV. She did get sidelined by the mainstream and picked up by the mainstream. So everything that she has done at this point has now been under scrutiny because the mainstream did this, but it's... You gotta wonder if all of this was a lie just to get clicks and to get things, and this whole be yourself thing and don't be afraid of what the mob says was nothing but a lie. And that is a punch in the gut to me because, yeah, without Maury, I would not be sitting here in front of this webcam behind this microphone. It wouldn't be happening right now. So this... Yeah, I'm going to talk about this weekend a little bit more and a little bit more in detail. So prepare for a rant. I'm probably not going to interact with the live chat for at least that part of the rant. But I will read your live chat afterwards. So come on in, 5:30 tomorrow. We'll talk about this a lot more. But for now, there's no more Jenna Marbles. All right. So the president was in my state yesterday, as we got to keep going on because the news keeps going on, of course. The President Trump returns to Wisconsin today, and a lot has changed since his raucous rally in January. This is from Scott Bauer over at the Associated Press via the Chicago Tribune. The last time President Trump visited Wisconsin, he staged a massive raucous rally at an arena in downtown Milwaukee. Yeah, I remember that actually. That was just a couple months ago. When he returns Thursday to the battleground state, he'll be reminded of how much has changed since January. The Republican president planned a trip to conservative rural Wisconsin for a private tour of a shipyard far from Milwaukee. It's not that far. Where coronavirus restrictions now prevent large rallies. A day earlier, the governor activated the National Guard in the Capitol. I don't know if that is true or not because I'm hearing stories from one side that say that, yes, he activated the National Guard, and then I'm hearing stories from far away in places like Sacramento, out of the Sacramento Bee, that say, no, he didn't activate the National Guard. So I don't know what to believe on that one, but let's keep going here. In the Capitol to protect state property from angry protests against racial injustice. When Trump last campaigned in the state in January, the unemployment was 3.5%. Now 12% of Wisconsin workers are jobless. That's because our idiot governor told them not to go to work or that it was illegal to go to work. Besides the visit to Marinette, he intended to participate in a town hall to be broadcast by Fox News Channel from an airport in Green Bay. The trip comes days after he dispatched Vice President Mike Pence to the conservative Milwaukee suburb. The two parts of Wisconsin targeted by Trump this week, suburban Milwaukee and the Green Bay media market in northeast Wisconsin, are areas where he needs to run up a big vote advantage in November. Some polls have suggested Trump has ground to make up in Wisconsin. A Marquette University Law School poll released Wednesday showed Democrat Joe Biden with an 8 percentage point lead over Trump. Trump trailed Democrat Hillary Clinton in nearly every poll conducted in Wisconsin in 2016, often by similar margins, before he won the state by fewer than 23,000 votes. Marinette County helped deliver that win. Trump carried the county about 170 miles north of Milwaukee, along the shores of Lake Michigan's Green Bay, with 65% of the vote. Unlike Trump's rally in Oklahoma last weekend and his visit to a Phoenix megachurch Tuesday, his tour of the Cantieri Marinette Marine Shipyard was not scheduled to be open to the public. He planned to speak to 500 to 600 people inside the shipyard, all of whom were required to wear masks. The shipbuilder's spokesperson, Eric Dent, said in an email, and that was probably House rules, not necessarily Trump rules. Trump, who generally refuses to cover his face, will not, Dent said. We are not asking or requiring the president to wear a mask, as we are going to great lengths to give him the appropriate social distance, he said. So, and yes, this is actually a fairly conservative area of Wisconsin. For the most part, Wisconsin is pretty red until you get into places like Madison and Milwaukee. And even Milwaukee is faltering at this point here, so I'm not sure where all of this is going to land, but yeah, I know that, he was here, and I made a little bit of a big deal. I went on Twitter and welcomed him when he announced it, but there's more to this story. We read now from The Hill. Mayor of Green Bay pens open letter to Trump ahead of his visit. We don't endorse divisive, bigoted rhetoric, from Eris Folly. Green Bay, Wisconsin Mayor Eric Genrich penned an open letter to President Trump warning him that the city does not tolerate intolerance or willful ignorance, a day before his visit to the area on Thursday. We are an increasingly diverse city with a vibrant immigrant heritage and culture and strong connections to the indigenous people who call our region home, he wrote in the letter. Our instinct towards hospitality, of course, extends to our president. But I want you to know that it has limitations. We do not tolerate intolerance or willful ignorance, and we won't endorse or ignore divisive and bigoted rhetoric. So, in a divisive and bigoted fashion, the mayor of Green Bay penned an intolerant and willfully ignorant letter saying that he doesn't tolerate intolerance or willful ignorance. Sounds great. The letter, which was dated Wednesday, comes a day before the president's planned town hall with Fox News host Sean Hannity in Green Bay. Genrich wrote in the letter that he hopes the town hall will serve as a legitimate opportunity for Trump to listen and learn from all members of this community, including those who have been left out of your vision for America. The challenges we face as a community, state, and country are immense, and they've grown only more immediate with the spread of the coronavirus, the tragic deaths of nearly 125,000 Americans, and the incredibly harmful impacts this virus has had on our economy, he continued. In addition, we are all grappling with the need to combat racism and violence in all their forms. This moment calls for honest, empathic, and courageous leadership, and I ask you to exemplify those qualities tomorrow and in the days ahead. Now, he wants the town hall to be a bunch of his constituents running around and badgering Trump until he gets pissed off and rage quits. That's what he wants. And I'm not sure what happened. I have not seen a follow-up on this yet. I'm going to look into this a little bit later on today. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow too, because I can't spend an entire hour screaming about Jenna Marbles. But yeah, we'll see what all happens here. And welcome to my state, Mr. President. All right, let's keep going. From Fox News, Trump administration takes aim at Obamacare in Supreme Court brief. From Tyler Olson. The Trump administration on Thursday night filed a brief in a highly charged Supreme Court case that has the potential to completely overturn the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, in the third direct assault on the law that has come before a tribunal since it was enacted in 2010. The case, California versus Texas, is brought by a group of red states arguing that because Congress eliminated the financial penalty associated with the individual mandate, the provision in the ACA that requires all Americans to purchase health insurance, it is no longer a valid exercise of the government's power to tax and therefore is unconstitutional. That is an interesting take on that. I do want to see how that runs. The Supreme Court, reading that mandate as a tax, is what saved the law during a previous challenge in raging conservatives who thought the Republican-appointed majority on the court would strike down the ACA. The red states further argue that the individual mandate is not severable from the rest of the law, meaning it was so instrumental to Congress's plan when it was originally passed that the rest of the law also needs to be declared invalid if the Supreme Court rules the individual mandate unconstitutional. The Trump administration in its brief supported that position. And the brief is here. I will link this in the Discord and over on Twitter so you guys can read the brief for it yourselves. I do want to take some time and read this for myself. I've not read the brief yet myself. Full disclosure there. I do want to take some time and read this as well, and I want to make it available for you to read it. The individual mandate cannot be severed from the remainder of the ACA. Congressional findings have incorporated into the ACA's text clearly indicate that Congress would not have adopted the guaranteed issue and community rating provisions absent the individual mandate's requirement to purchase insurance, the Trump administration argues. It continues. This court recognized the interrelatedness of these three provisions in two other cases, and Congress's 2017 amendment does not alter the severability analysis because it left intact the critical statutory findings about the interconnectedness of these provisions, findings that were and remain the functional equivalent of an inseverability clause. The Supreme Court will hear this case during its next term, which is set to begin in October. That means by this time next year, the ACA may no longer be the law of the land. Huzzahs are in order. And it's something to think about, too. I mean, with no teeth behind the law, no taxation that goes along with it, even though taxation is theft, how do you keep it going and how do you justify its continued existence? It appears that you can't. So we're going to see where the Supreme Court goes, or even if they take this up. I kind of want to see this through. So, and yes, I will make sure to not close this at this point, link this up in the Discord, and make sure that everyone else has access to it as well. All right. Let's keep going on down the road. We got a couple in here, so if you guys want to get into the live chat and get your name read at the end of the show, make sure you start getting those stickers out. I see that we got a sticker party going on over there at this point. Make sure you get those messages and those stickers out because I want to make sure to acknowledge you guys as we go. From the Daily Wire, biggest bait and switch in history. Attorney General Barr slams tech giants for how they gain power. This is from Daily Wire News. AG Barr told Verdict with Ted Cruz this week that the way that the big tech companies obtained the overwhelming level of power that they now have is through the biggest bait and switch in history, arguing that they gained power by allowing diverse views on their platforms, and once they became dominant in the market, they started censoring views they didn't like. We have antitrust investigation of all the major internet platforms, or most of the major internet platforms. That's very much underway, Barr said on the show, which is co-hosted by Daily Wire podcast host Michael Knowles. I expect to be making decisions in the next few weeks about actions on that. I think that during the summer we'll see some developments, but this issue of censorship is very troubling because our country was based on the framers, as you know, believed the thing that would ultimately keep us free and keep a majority from repressing the minority is a lot of diversity of voices out there, a robust marketplace. But these behemoths have gotten vast, strong control over the expression of views and the public here in the United States. And they got there, and I've said this is the biggest bait and switch in history, Barr continued. They got there by saying, hey, we're going to be open to all views, come join us because then you can have your views. So they built up this powerful network, very strong market power based on the representation that they were sort of open to all as a sort of bulletin board. But when they got that market power, now they're censoring views, just like the example you gave, and now they're censoring views. And so we're getting increasingly monolithic viewpoints being presented to the American people rather than the kind of robust debate. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see as well. And I got to listen to the full interview. If you didn't check out, I can't think of the name of it right now. Verdict with Ted Cruz. There it is. It's right in front of me. If you haven't checked that out as well, go ahead and check that out. It's a great podcast, and it's very informative, too. They've got some great guests, and just the banter between the two men is pretty epic. So go and check that out. All right, let's keep going here from the USA Today, archived, of course, because I'm not turning my ad blocker off for you guys or subscribing to your website. Supreme Court allows quick removal of asylum seekers. This is from Richard Wolff over at USA Today. The Supreme Court handed a green light on Thursday to the Trump administration in its effort to speed up the removal of those seeking asylum. The court ruled that asylum seekers claiming fear of persecution abroad do not have to be given a federal court hearing before quick removal from the United States. The decision was written by Associate Justice Samuel Alito. Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan dissented. Of course they did. The case, one of many to come before the High Court involving the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration, concerned Sri Lanka native Vijayakumar Thuraisajim. He was arrested 25 yards north of the Mexican border and immediately placed in expedited removal proceedings. Immigration officials determined that Thuraisajim did not have a credible fear of persecution, even though he's a member of Sri Lanka's Tamil ethnic minority that faces beatings and torture at the hands of the government. Oh, this is an objective article. Sure is. While aliens who have established connections in this country have due process rights in deportation proceedings, the court long ago held that Congress is entitled to set the conditions for an alien's lawful entry into this country, and that as a result, an alien at the threshold of initial entry cannot claim any greater rights under due process clause, Alito wrote in a 36-page opinion. In her dissent, Sotomayor said that the system Congress established short-circuits an inquiry designed to determine whether asylum seekers may seek shelter in this country or whether they may be cast to an unknown fate. Today's decision handcuffs the judiciary's ability to perform its constitutional duty to safeguard individual liberty and dismantles a critical component of separation of powers, she wrote. It increases the risk of erroneous immigration decisions that contravene governing statutes and treaties. So, yeah, at this point, yes, the ICE has the ability to deport people if they catch them as they're coming in, and just, you're done. Of course, yes, you do still have the ability to seek asylum through the proper channels, but if you're just border jumping, you're out. And to an extent, I think I do agree with this. I mean, if they're just catching you as you go, catch you, throw you out of here, but like they did say, you are still entitled to due process because that's constitutional, and some of the things that the people are going, especially the right wing over on Twitter, some of the directions that they're going with this are a little bit dangerous as we look along this. They absolutely are, because it gives the impression, and I said a lot of this during the Kate Steinle thing, you do have to remember that your rights are inherent from your creator, from birth. They aren't given to you by the government, and that does include your right to due process of law. For you to change that for illegal immigrants does give that power back to the government, and just remember, a government that's big enough to give you your rights is big enough to take them back away. So just be careful with the line that you're going down. But this was a win for the Trump administration from the Supreme Court, and it's one that he needed after everything else that they tried to put forward earlier on in the last couple weeks. Let's keep going here. I know it's getting to the end of the show. I'm a bit mush-mouthed again. Stroke notes show Obama, Biden weighed in on Flynn case even as Comey downplayed it. Lawyers from Brooks Singman. Michael Flynn's lawyers said newly uncovered notes from former FBI official Peter Strzok indicate that then FBI Director James Comey appeared to downplay Flynn's calls during the presidential transmission with Russia's ambassador as legit during a meeting where then President Barack Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden also weighed in. The handwritten notes purportedly penned by Strzok were submitted by Flynn's legal team on Wednesday as part of his court case after acting U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin and the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia shared them with his attorneys. Sherwin told Flynn attorneys Sidney Powell and Jesse Bennell on Tuesday that the notes were found as part of the Justice Department's review of the Flynn case and that they were taken by a former Deputy Assistant Director Peter Strzok. While the page itself is undated, we believe that the notes were taken in early January 2017, possibly between January 3rd and January 5th, Sherwin wrote on Tuesday. On Wednesday, after a federal appeals court ordered Flynn's case be dismissed, Powell filed the notes and claimed that they produced further stunning and exculpatory evidence that was previously withheld from Flynn. Powell wrote that the notes that Director Comey himself and the highest levels of the Obama administration had the transcripts of Flynn's phone calls with officials of other countries and knew General Flynn's calls were lawful and proper. Strzok's notes, believed to be of January 4th, 2017, reveal that former President Obama, James Comey, Sally Yates, Joe Biden, and apparently Susan Rice discussed the transcripts of Flynn's calls and how to proceed against him. Powell wrote, Mr. Obama himself directed that the right people investigate General Flynn. She added, this caused former FBI Director Comey to acknowledge the obvious General Flynn's phone calls with Ambassador Kislyak appear legit. Powell also wrote that, according to the notes, it appears that Vice President Biden personally raised the idea of the Logan Act. That's going to change a few things. Of course, once again, with him being in the lead right now, that's probably not going to be a lot of things, especially from the mainstream media. They can't let their Titan fall. At least not till he gets in office and is ready to appoint that sweet, sweet first female president. But this is interesting. It's interesting that this is all out there. And once again, we do have to remember that Barr has said he's not going to go after Obama or Biden because there's no way right now to make this look nonpartisan and not make it look like a political witch hunt. And I don't think it is at this point, but you have to remember what the optics are and what the media are going to say. All right, let's keep going here. From CNN, former GOP candidate Carly Fiorina says she'll still vote for Biden. From Veronica Strakwilersi. Former 2016 Republican presidential candidate Carly Fiorina says she'll support Joe Biden over President Trump in the 2020 election, calling the presumptive Democratic standard bearer a person of humility and character. I've been very clear that I can't support Donald Trump, and elections are binary choices. No, they're not. I will say this, I hope that Biden understands that this moment in history calls for him to be a leader, not a politician, Fiorina told the Atlantic's podcast The Ticket in an interview released on Thursday. Pressed whether that means she would vote for Biden in the general election, Fiorina replied, well, it's not till November, is it? I'm not voting for Trump, it's binary choice, so if faced with a binary choice on the ballot, yes. Fiorina is one of several Republicans, who are also Democrats, who have recently said they won't vote for Trump. In November, Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, said he'll instead write in a conservative candidate. No, he won't. He's a Democrat now. And former Secretary of State Colin Powell told CNN's Jake Tapper on the State of the Union earlier this month that he'll vote for Biden. Fiorina, an anti-abortion and former U.S. Senate candidate, acknowledged that there are plenty of policy differences she has with Biden, but added that she believes the former vice president could problem solve. He can't string a sentence together and find common ground on a bipartisan basis. He can't find common ground if he can't talk to people. The former HP CEO was one of 17 Republican presidential candidates in 2016, becoming the only declared female candidate to seek the GOP nomination. And, of course, my first choice as well, but now I realize that she's very dumb. Probably why you don't see a lot of HP anymore. Let's keep going here. I've got a couple more, and then we will read the names of everyone who chatted in the live chat for the week, and then we'll call it a day. All right, from Eyewitness 11 News, just in case you didn't think that you thought that the fear porn was over. Saharan dust cloud to arrive over North Carolina this weekend. From Don Schwenniker and Steve Stewart. Get ready for the possibility of some spectacular sunsets, and it's all thanks to a desert that is thousands of miles away. Every year, the dust plume from the Sahara Desert, known as the Saharan Air Layer, or SAL, travels 3,000 to 4,000 miles from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean and falls into the Caribbean. But like everything else seems to be in 2020, the dust plume is unique this year. According to research from the University of Puerto Rico, this will be the highest concentration of particles observed in the past 50 to 60 years. So what does that mean for North Carolina? Well, this plume should move past the Caribbean this year and into the southeast United States. That means we could see some dramatic red skies this weekend. The particles scatter the sun's rays, and voila, Instagram is full of sunrises and sunsets. If we get some clear air in the area, it may appear hazy during midday. If it rains and those showers tap the dust layer, they can sometimes leave behind a dusty film. Air quality may also be affected in the area based on the amount of dust working its way to the surface. The SAL floats anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000 feet above the ground. It moves west on tropical waves and strong winds over the southern Atlantic Ocean. This dust may also be beneficial by keeping away tropical storms, according to NOAA. Climate change! The air with SAL is very dry. It can also create a temperature inversion. Colder air at the surface gets trapped below warmer air higher in the atmosphere. Those factors can inhibit a tropical storm's ability to strengthen. Some research also suggests it may reduce the number of storms forming or the intensity of the storms that do form. More investigation is underway. Okay, if this is a yearly thing, why are you talking like this is going to be somewhat unique and this is going to be the end of tropical storms forever? It's just going to move a little bit. Don't worry. But yes, this is going to be the next big thing, and yeah, I'm sure Instagram is going to be flooded. It'll drown out all those black squares and all the people that I've had to part ways with as following on Instagram because they can't do anything except complain about the government. There was another one too, another influencer that I enjoyed very much. She was one of the producers over on Flynn Brothers Entertainment. I thought she was cute. And I thought that her takes were interesting on the Staff's React segments that they had over there. But yeah, for 3 solid weeks, it's been nothing but BLM, black squares, and everything else. And you know what? I don't need this. I go to Instagram, for the most part, to escape from the grind of politics, and I don't need you throwing it back in my life. All right. Last one, and then we'll read the names of everyone who chatted. This came to me over in the Discord from Seawall, and we were talking about this a bit earlier in a group chat, and I was interested in it, and he found me an article for it. So, from Bounding into Comics. A new rumor details how Lucasfilm has plans to save Star Wars. The rumor comes from YouTuber Doomcock, who explains, "I'm receiving a massive amount of information, and unfortunately some of it's contradictory. It is my belief that the contradictions in what I'm hearing are either the result of deliberate information, trying in essence to cast a fog of war over what's happening inside Lucasfilm, or it's information designed to counter misinformation from some opposing faction trying to get messaging out to the public." He adds, "At this point, all I can do is use my best judgment to sift through all the information I receive and present the information I believe to have the most chance to be genuine and to you on an as-is basis. With that said, I cannot independently verify this information, so please take all of this as unsubstantiated and take it with a grain of salt." Doomcock then details that this specific rumor from his source, who he says is working with a number of people that he calls the team. Doomcock explains, "One of the new insiders commented that Lucasfilm can hit the reset button, fix everything. At this point, my source said, 'What reset button?' And the insider responded again, 'The veil,' which finally led my source to ask, 'What is the veil?' The insider replied, 'The veil of the Force. Have you guys seen Star Wars Rebels?' The source then explained what the veil of the Force is. Doomcock breaks it down. In episode 13 of season 4 of Star Wars Rebels, in an episode titled A World Between Worlds, they introduced the idea of the veil of the Force. The veil of the Force is a mystical dimension of the Force that connects all of time and space. He added, inside the veil, you see flashbacks of past events, and events that have yet to occur. This veil could apparently be used to fix Star Wars, although this particular insider declined to go into details regarding how exactly this could be used to save Star Wars. On the official Star Wars website, they explained A World Between Worlds is opened through a painting of the Mortis gods found on the exterior of the Jedi Temple of Lothal. This can be seen in Star Wars Rebels below, and they've got a video here. The official Star Wars website goes on to describe what Ezra Bridger finds in the portal. The website explains, inside he found doorways between time and space, and saved his friend Ahsoka Tano from death at the hands of Darth Vader. It adds, the Emperor, through dark arts, found Bridger and Tano in the temple, and almost succeeded in using them to gain entrance. The Jedi escaped, however, and the temple collapsed. Another insider then detailed to Doomcock that the veil could be used to make the entire Disney sequel trilogy an alternate timeline. So they're going to Star Trek it, essentially. Doomcock explains, during another encounter with another insider, the insider revealed that the secret plan to save Star Wars, he or she alleged that the Veil of the Force was going to be used to make the entire sequel trilogy an alternate timeline and reclassify the sequels as Star Wars Legends. Doomcock then details that his source confirmed his plan, alerted to this as a possibility. My source began to dig deeper. Eventually, this confirmation was provided by someone deep inside the organization, who alleged that indeed there is a plan to fix Star Wars using the Veil of the Force. It's a lazy way to do it. It's time travel, and I don't know if I agree with it. But the other end of it, of course, as you look along this, they have ruined the trilogy, and there are lazier ways to go out and fix this. I know Shapiro came out and said, well, gang, what they could do is just go in and say that this was all a dream of Rey, and none of this actually happened, and then explain it away. That's going to be the best thing you can do with the third Star Wars sequel movie. You can go ahead and get rid of it, and call it a day, and go start over again. So, that's what's going on there, and I would be excited to see Lucasfilm split from Disney, use this, and actually make a worthy sequel trilogy, especially with the masterpiece they did on The Mandalorian, and even now that I'm getting further into the Clone Wars as well. I know that there's good writing out there, I just don't know how Disney wants to do with it, so I'd love to see an actual Star Wars movie, not the SJW stuff that we saw. Alright. And that is going to be it for news today, but the last thing we do on Friday is read the names of the people who chatted in the live chat. So, we're going to start with today, of course. So, working backwards, we've got Ron Helton, Sully Blue, Dabba Cannabis 420. Welcome on in, everybody. Red Pill Your Mind got popped for links. That's fun. And it's good to see some conspiracy theory here every day. More Sully Blue with your sticker party. Ron Helton, the sticker party. Welcome on. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Seawall's in here. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Absolutely. Unsatiable 1776. Went and had his morning bowel movement. Let's see. What else do we got here? Unsatiable got popped for a link. Alright, and it looks like that is it for today's chatters. Let's see who we had for the rest of the week. So, on Thursday, we had Sully Blue, Seawall, 728, Ron Helton, Roundtable Decision popped in for a morning, and Flancorp, that was a new name, but welcome on in. Thanks for checking us out. On Wednesday, we had Ron Helton, Tony Patriot, who couldn't understand the fact that I wasn't interacting with the chat during the show, so apologies to you, Tony Patriot. Sully Blue, we had Beach Bliss, who is a new name in here I haven't seen before, so welcome on in. And Elephant Man popped by for a little bit. On Tuesday, we had Ron Helton, Sully Blue, and we had the Fagoso. Iyama Fago came in and checked us out, so thanks for checking us out over there. And on Monday, we had Unsatiable, Ron Helton, and Sully Blue as well, so thanks to everybody who came back and checked us out. Once again, just a couple announcements here before we close out on this. This Saturday, we are going to have an Ed Talk at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, and I'm going to go over exactly how much of a punch in the gut this Jenna Marbles thing is, because that really moved me in a way that I didn't think it was going to when I first saw everything and I first saw the video. But it, like I said, just wondering now if all of this was a lie. Makes me wonder now if all of my channel is a lie too, but we'll talk a bit about that this weekend. And remember, we'll be back here on Monday with more contemporary, and Monday night with the final episode of Ed's World, episode number 76. It's going to be a blast, and I want to thank everybody for making the show what it was, and I hope you will continue to make our new show, The Red and Ed Show, just as much of a show as this one was, and even more. So thanks everybody for that, and we will head on out of here. Until then, until Monday, and until tomorrow, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.